Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans, for Ohio State fans. From the West Coast, I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Thursday, November 14th, 2024, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor, Paige Van Horn from Denver. PBH, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well, buddy. No blizzard tonight, which is nice. Yeah, I'm sitting here having a libation. Although last Thursday was actually pretty fun because it was a snow day and we actually went out and witnessed some karaoke. I didn't do any karaoke. But yeah, just having a libation. Happy to chat with you boys. And then waiting for the infamous Jarrett Barnes to arrive at my doorstep in about...
oh, wow. He's in town, huh?
About 90 minutes from now. And we'll be at Red Rocks tomorrow night for a 4-hour set by Tiesto, if you can believe that.
Oh, a big weekend lined up for the two of you guys. We are also pleased to be joined by our man on the ground in Cleveland, Chad Plummer. CP, what's the word from the 216?
What up, guys? The 216 is all good. Missed last week being on with you guys. Had some adult responsibilities, which I tried to avoid at most costs. But yeah, went down to Columbus last weekend for the game. Met Boog's son's daughter's parents. They were up from D.C. Marvin and Helena. They were super cool people, probably some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And it was a 5-star day, 65 and sunny in the shoe. And, hit like a 45 zip, but it was all good.
All right, fellas. Well, listen, there's a couple things I want to accomplish with the two of you this evening. We will, of course, preview number 2 Ohio State's next opponent, the Northwestern Wildcats. The Buckeyes and Wildcats meet, of course, this Saturday at Wrigley Field in Chicago. But first, I want to have a quick look back at the Buckeyes' 45-0 win over Purdue last Saturday. CP, we know you were there. Now, I did a recap of that game on Sunday, so our listeners know where I stand on that performance. But I want to spend a few minutes getting your takes on that game, boys. The Buckeye defense pitched their second shutout of the season, which is the first time since 2009 that Ohio State has registered multiple shutouts in a season. That's 15 years ago. The Buckeyes outgained the Boilermakers 433-206. The starters were on the bench by the start of the fourth quarter. It was pretty much just how Ryan Day would have drawn it up, I think. CP, you were there. Why don't you give us a few thoughts from that game?
I'll tell you what, man. It was actually great. Because I had this. As Paige knows, and I'm sure you did, people that know me, the shoe was kind of like a
more.
I really don't like going back there. You know what I mean? Because the last time I was there, we lost to Oregon, which that's been a real stick in my brain. That's why I didn't go out to Eugene this year. One of the reasons. But the wine and cheese crowd. There's a lot of older people that have the season tickets have had them for 30 years.
You mean like our age? Old people like us?
A little bit old. I just I guess where I'm going with this is I don't like when it's third down and it's first quarter, you better be standing up. I don't give a shit if you're 75, Aunt Betty, to just stand up.
Yeah.
Well, were they? Were they standing up?
It was, there was a mix, this and that. I mean, I stood up, of course. I don't care. But, it got pretty loud in there at times, which was great.
Mm-hmm. So the crowd, so the ambiance was good. Was it good or bad, CP? Was it a good crowd, bad, or what was the vibe?
It was good at times. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But, I think Ohio State fans have just gotten so, obviously, as we know, just spoiled. We win, you don't win, oh, okay, so now we got to start getting a little crazy and rambunctious because we're down or whatever. But you know what? I'll give it a 4.5, 5.
4.5, 5 on atmosphere, you'd say.
But the fact that it was 65 and sunny in November 9th, in the shoe, I was the happiest dude in the shoe. I mean, I got to tell you.
So what are your observations from the actual game, my friend?
We played well.
Yeah.
It was good to see.
Hold on, Z.
Yeah, sorry.
Hold on. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I think it's worth mentioning, right? And I kind of harken back to when they opened up the Schottenstein Center, right? And it's meant for people that have a lot of money, that have the best seats. And it's the same thing at the shoe, right? Like you take the student section and, you throw them in block O and they're 60, I mean, not even 60, they're 120 yards away from the field.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I'm not going to go down the big noon thing because I'm not going to, but I do think they really need to think about the experience in the shoe. And like, you know what, screw it. I don't care. I want the student section behind both benches.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And reimagine the experience, because you're not alone, Chad. Like everybody feels it, and I think they're doing themselves a disservice, and then it goes with the kickoff times, it goes with the entertainment, it goes with the turf and the whole thing. But
also a pretty crappy home schedule until Indiana and Michigan come to town. It's been a shitty home schedule as well, which hasn't helped.
Sure,
and then a slew of noon starts too.
Yeah. And I just think, and again, it's just my 2 cents on that whole thing, but it's very true. It's very valid. And I know you want to get the most money for those tickets, but you have enough cash. Reimagine the experience.
Right.
Yeah.
I think somebody should actually do that.
So ambiance leaves a little something to be desired. That is a topic that has been discussed on the various platforms that we all listen to. It'll be interesting to see if Ross Bjork does anything about that.
Right.
A better home schedule.
The energy that the team of the energy that I saw, that was 5-star.
All right. So you like the ambiance. You thought that the energy on the sidelines was great, which is good to hear. They brought their own juice for this game, right? For the worst team in the Big Ten, one of the worst teams in the FBS. They still showed up. They dominated. They got the starters on the bench by the fourth quarter. Mission accomplished. PVH, what did you see from that game that stood out to you?
A few things. I mean, at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do, right? Obviously, the defense, pitching a shutout was amazing. What I liked on offense is I kind of felt like maybe Will Howard kind of maybe started to feel the RPO a little bit more confidently than he has in previous games.
He made better decisions, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if, whatever, the game's slowing down or he's just felt more comfortable with it. So that was good to see.
That was getting a groove.
Yeah. Because that, man, I mean, that is just a killer dimension, if he's, and they probably, have been slow playing that, right? The entire season. We don't want him running the ball unnecessarily, because clearly we just don't want to get him to get hurt.
Right.
It was awesome to see Tate, that involved. On the flip side, like, where was Ibuka? Kind of like
it was a load management day for Emeka. I think he didn't play a lot of snaps. 35, I think.
Yeah,
pretty low for him.
Yeah, exactly. But then I mean, that's the thing about this offense. Like, I mean, dude, the weapons are just ridiculous because Ibuka didn't have a great game, but Tate killed you. Smith was Smith, and as you mentioned, Judkins was okay, but Trey was great.
Yeah.
Henderson is just, fantastic. He caught that long, I guess wheel route, whatever it was, went for a lot of
32 yards. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but, the one thing that I kind of, that stuck out to me, honestly, most of the whole game was, and I forget, it might have been the third quarter or whenever it was, but Purdue had like a third and long, like 10 or 12. And your boy, Igmanosin, got
another PI.
Another PI, and you're kind of like, it wasn't that the game was in doubt, but, you're just like, God damn it. And the very next play, Ransom picked that ball off.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought, man, they are making timely plays, especially on defense. Mm-hmm. And that was just essentially a backbreaker. And the game was probably, it was well in hand. But I just, not only that the defense is playing great and pitching shutouts, but they seem very opportunistic, and they're, almost weirdly making the biggest plays, or not weirdly, at the most opportune moments. And so that to me is just like super encouraging.
I agree. We're seeing a lot.
Yeah, when's the last time we had that shit?
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah, Knowles has seemed to find the right balance between not giving up the explosive plays, but getting pressure, knowing when to bring pressure on quarterbacks and bring extra men on quarterbacks and having it be effective. That 4 sacks on Saturday, forced a couple of turnovers. You had the scoop and score by Jack Sawyer. I thought JT Tuimoloau played very well. I believe he and Sawyer were the co-defensive players of the game. So and back to Igbinosun, that was his 9th penalty of the season. He is far and away the most penalized player on the roster. After Igbinosun, the next 2 guys have 2. He's got 9. And I think one of the 3 pass interference penalties he committed against Nebraska actually got waived off. So he should be at 10 penalties. All right, fellas, let's turn our attention to this Saturday. The Buckeyes travel to Chicago to play Northwestern at Wrigley Field. This game is an 11 a.m. Central kick on the Big Ten Network. The line is Ohio State minus 28.5. The over-under is 43.5. Ohio State leads the all-time series between these schools 64-14 with 1 tie. That includes an ugly 21-7 Ohio State win at Ryan Field back in 2022, a game in which wind gusts reached up to 50 miles per hour. Now, according to the Weather Channel, conditions should be much better for this game. Partly cloudy, highs in the low 50s, about a 10% chance of rain, and winds up to about 12 miles. At least that's what it was the last time I checked. Now, second-year head coach David Braun brings the Wildcats into this game at 4-5. That includes a 26-20 win in overtime at Purdue 2 weeks ago. But Northwestern has lost 4 of their last 6. They've also had an extra week to prepare for this game, though. They were off last week. Now, the strength of this Northwestern team, guys, is its defense. The Wildcats come into this game 53rd nationally in total defense, 45th in defensive yards per play. They're 39th in scoring defense, but they've been very good against the run, 16th nationally, allowing 108 yards per game. But they've been vulnerable against the pass. The Wildcats are currently 99th nationally against the pass, allowing 241 yards passing per game. So that's something to watch in this matchup. The Northwestern defense is led by junior linebacker Mac Uline. Uline leads them in tackles with 58. He's got a solid PFF grade of about 70. Also, keep your eye on junior cornerback Theron Johnson. He's a good one. He's their second leading tackler, and he leads Northwestern in PBUs with 10. He has 10 pass breakups. That's a lot. He also has 2 picks. That leads the team. He's also their top-graded defender among their starters with an overall grade of 78.1. Finally, junior defensive end Aiden Hubbard. He's a Cleveland native, so he's from your neck of the woods, CP. He leads Northwestern in sacks with 4 and pressures with 21. Real quick, guys, I want to have a look at the Northwestern offense, then I want to kick it around to you for your thoughts on this matchup. Now, this is where the Wildcats have really struggled. And this might be, guys, the worst offense the Buckeyes will face this season. Even worse than Purdue. The Wildcats come into this game 131st nationally in total offense. Now, mind you, there are 134 teams in the FBS. They're 131st.
I was going to say, I thought there was only 119.
134. They're 131st nationally in total offense, 126th in offensive yards per play. They're 116th in rushing offense. They're 120th in passing offense and in scoring offense. They averaged 19 points a game. I mean, oof. Those are some god-awful numbers. Now, just as an aside, by the way, as I was looking at these numbers, I happened to notice one other future Ohio State opponent that was right in the same range as Northwestern in every one of these stats. Take a guess who that was. Michigan. That's how fucking bad Michigan's offense is. They are right in this very same range offensively in a lot of these stats. So we will get to Michigan in a couple weeks, but I just thought that was interesting. Now, the Northwestern offense is led by sophomore quarterback Jack Lausch. Lausch is completing just under 54% of his passes at 5.4 yards per attempt. He's thrown 5 touchdowns to 4 picks. He's been sacked 12 times. Now, he's a pretty good athlete with good mobility. He's run for over 200 yards this season. So you think about how Ohio State actually has given up some yards to quarterbacks, rushing yards to quarterbacks. So that's something to think about. One would think we're going to see a lot of Jack Lausch as a runner in this game. Senior running back Cam Porter, the Cincinnati native. He actually leads the Wildcats in rushing, though, with 387 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns. He averages 4 yards a carry. So, okay. Finally, senior A.J. Henning, that's a name you guys might remember. He's the Michigan transfer, is their leading receiver with 426 yards and 3 touchdown catches. All right, that was a mouthful. CP, I'm going to start with you. Give me a few thoughts on this matchup.
First of all, there's a lot of they and the team is super excited about playing in this kind of environment, Wrigley Field. Carnell Tate is from Chicago, so
that's a good call out. Yeah,
really happy to be back and playing in front of his family. It's it's a cool venue.
It really
as far
is.
as the game, let's just get I really don't think this is going to be much of anything, to be honest with you. I'm excited about where this team is, man, and the focus, and we're starting to grind. Yes, there's some little things that everybody can nitpick, but yeah, you look at we got Travion and Quishon. They're the only running back duo in the country with an 80-plus, PFF grade.
I saw that.
First two receivers, combo duo receivers, to get 8 touchdowns each in 2024.
That's Buckeye and Smith,
and
right?
Jeremy and the offensive line, man. I just got to give some props up to those. Hensman, man, stayed hungry and ready, after, getting demoted after you bring in Seth McLaughlin from Alabama. So, they're all, I feel like they have one mindset, and it's starting, I think the Nebraska game was a wake-up call, as well as the loss to Oregon. But I could confidently say, or at least from my point of view, that there will be no team that just keeps running the quarterback up the middle. That's going to be no longer an option.
You think so? You expect Ohio State to take that away in this game?
I expect them to take it away again the rest of the 2024 season.
All right.
I don't expect anybody to do that, but I'm excited. Let's just get in there. I just wanted to get business taken care of and get back and kick the shit out of Indiana next week.
All right. I like it, CP. PVH, give us a couple thoughts on this game.
Congratulations, Northwestern. Just, go ahead and collect your 1/16th portion of the Big Ten TV revenue split and maybe run out and build another library. You might want to think about, putting that football stadium on hiatus with those types of offensive numbers PU. I had no idea they were that bad.
It's dreadful.
It is really bad. So all you do is there's only one thing to worry about is, the quintessential look ahead. But as, CP was talking about, I think they'll be fired up to play this game. It's definitely unique, I would like to be there. That would be fun as heck to, be in Wrigley Field. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. So do your thing at Ohio State. Let's not have any injuries. Let's not have heart attacks when Hinsman, kind of had to be helped off the field. That was the scariest moment of that entire game against Purdue. So you're not going to learn much from this. I do kind of I don't mind these games later in the season, right? Keep working things out, keep trying things. Knowles was trying the jack thing. These are laboratory experiments for them. And to Chad's point, don't fuck around, put them away. Nobody get hurt. And then, man, we are in the stretch run of some massive big games and gut check time. So let's go.
The big theme this week for the Ohio State beat is the vertical passing game. Will Howard has missed, he's missed a few deep throws in these last couple games. He underthrew Carnell Tate in a deep ball last week against Purdue that probably should have gone for 6. He missed both Tate and Jeremiah Smith on deep throws against Penn State. Now, Smith may have slowed down on his route, and there was clearly a miscommunication of some kind on that play, but he did miss him. He was wide open. And both of those throws in that Penn State game to Tate and Jeremiah Smith would have also gone for touchdowns, I think. But against Nebraska, Howard did have a 40-yard touchdown pass and a 60-yarder to Smith, which I think was probably Howard's best deep throw of the season. So we know he can do it. And there are just so many eyeballs on the Buckeyes and so many people writing and talking about them like us. I think we sometimes tend to exaggerate Ohio State's weaknesses because there's been a lot of chatter about, Will Howard can't throw the deep ball. But I would like to see Howard start hitting more of those deep balls, right? Smith and Tate have been getting open downfield on the regular. Now, those throws have been there all season, and they're facing the 99th ranked pass defense in this game. So one would think there will be opportunities for Howard, Smith, and Tate to make some things happen in the vertical passing game. Now, I don't want deep throws to come at the expense of offensive efficiency, though, because Ohio State seems just fine driving the ball down the field on 10 to 12 plays drives and scoring that way. The Buckeyes lead the country, by the way, guys, in red zone touchdown percentage at 88%. In 34 red zone trips, the Buckeyes have scored 30 touchdowns. That's the best they've ever been at scoring touchdowns in the red zone under Ryan Day. But look, you have Jeremiah Smith, you got Carnell Tate, you're landing body blows with these 10, 12 play scoring drives. Why not try to land a knockout punch here and there with a 60-yard bomb to Smith, right? I mean, those types of plays can be just psychologically devastating to the opponent. So I just want to see a bit more from the vertical passing game on Saturday and then moving forward. I'm also going to be watching how the left side of the offensive line holds up in this game. You've Donovan Jackson, he'll be making only his third career start at left tackle. Same with Carson Hintzman. CP, PBH, you both mentioned him. It'll be only his third start at left guard. He's played well. They both held up these last 2 weeks really well. So, but it's this arrangement is kind of it's a week-to-week kind of thing. Every week is going to be a new challenge for those guys. It is worth mentioning, though, the offensive line this week named a semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
That's pretty. Kudos to those guys. I mean,
fantastic.
They could have very well not made it as a semifinalist if Hintzman and Jackson were a total bomb at their new positions these last 2 weeks, but they've held up really well. We'll see what Northwestern has for them with an extra week to prepare. I expect they're going to test that side of the left side of the offensive line. Finally, look, the Ohio State defense is arguably the best defensive unit in all of college football. They lead the country in total defense stop rate, opponent red zone touchdown percentage. And the Northwestern offense, as we've already illustrated, might very well be the worst offense in the country. I mean, come on. Those are just dreadful numbers. This is a highly favorable, great on bad matchup for the Buckeyes. I want to see the Silver Bullets be the superior unit that they are. Go out there and dominate. Also, the Buckeyes have not surrendered an offensive touchdowns in 2 games, 2 consecutive games now. Let's see if they can make it 3 in a row on Saturday. I think they got a good chance to do that. PBH, any other thoughts you got on this game before we move to our concernometer scores?
Well, the Howard, long pass is kind of interesting, right? Because he shorts them, right? And it's almost like he can't even believe, right? Or he's almost like overthinking. Obviously, just dude, throw it up, right? Because most of the time when guys, like what percentage of any pass over 40 yards is
an overthrow,
right?
Yeah, totally.
He's clearly not doing that, and it's just like, dude, just fucking unload that thing, and these guys,
slang that bitch.
Yeah, stop over it. And from that regard, I just think it might be like some mental, like, oh my God, I don't want to fuck this up, and so I just completely, like, queef some duck up there, and it's 5 yards. But again, that is completely nitpicking. I was laughing about the Joe Moore thing. I was like, I wonder who the losers are that actually vote for that, or like these AP like sports writers that don't watch anything about Ohio State football or anything, right? And they're basing their entire, whatever on the fact they saw Ohio State just manhandle Penn State on that one drive, right? And, and have no idea of sort of the consternation and just all of the the turmoil that we've had to go through on the offensive line. But kudos to them, man. That's great. I mean, I'm not shitting on it at all. It's just kind of funny to me because all we talk about is, oh my God, the offensive line, Chicken Little, Humpty Dumpty, and then next thing you know, like, oh well, actually, they're for the Joe Moore semifinals. I don't know what you've been watching, but okay, cool, I love it.
Well, they were playing very well before the Josh Simmons injury. And that threw things off there for a couple of games, and I think they played pretty well They played pretty well since. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that nomination, them getting a semifinal nomination is based almost entirely on that game-ending drive against Penn State, which was pretty impressive, I have to say.
Yeah,
that was a big moment for that offensive line. You know, like if you win in individual awards, right, you have to have your Heisman moment. If you win the Heisman, that was the offensive lines. If they win it, that was their Joe Moore award-winning moment against Penn State.
Well, to that point, but if Ohio State can make a deep run, right, and close the deal, that will be the moment, probably of any other moment in the entire season, right? Where, coming off the Nebraska game, in that situation, we needed that game like you could not believe. And you knew we were going to run the ball. The whole world knew we were going to run the ball, and we did it, and you couldn't stop us. That could be the turning point where you look back and say, holy shit, that's how, that's what turned everything around and led us to where we ultimately want to go.
There's no question it was a turning point. I mean, it was the turning point of the season, I think, that last drive for sure. Will it prove to be the ultimate turning point toward a championship? We'll see. But for sure, that's a good call out, PVH. All right, fellas, let's fire up the concernometer for this game. PVH, I'm going to start with you. Give us your concernometer readout for this game.
So, when did we lose to these guys at night? Like
2004.
Yeah, that was like
2004. It was a rebuilding year for us. We lost 4 games that year.
Yeah, but I was in Chicago with my, in-laws, and specifically my father-in-law at a bar, I think coming out of like a wedding or something like terrible. And had to endure that.
Didn't someone get in a car wreck? Like you were driving, like in the cab and shit.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, your memory is weird.
I can't believe I just remembered that.
Dude, we were driving in Gary, Indiana, and my in-laws. His Jetta broke down, and I left a car with Evan in a jumper in the back seat in Gary, Indiana. And if you've never been to Gary, Indiana, it is not a very. Let's just say it's not Turks and Caicos.
You better be wearing colors.
I only bring this up because that has scarred me forever, because my father-in-law, he's a funny dude, and man, did he let me have it for 4 fucking hours. And so normally I would give this to 0 concernometer, but from that experience alone, I'm just going to have to give it a 3.
A 3. Okay. CP, how about you? Give us your concernometer score.
I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I'm like at a 2.5.
Just be you, Chad. Just be
me. I'm going with a 2.5.
Okay, I'm at a 4, and it has much more to do with the circumstances than the actual opponent. 11 a.m. kick on a temporary playing surface in a baseball stadium against an overmatched opponent the week before you play another top 5 matchup game, which is Indiana. This team, with all of its senior leadership and unfinished business, not to mention all the talent, should be impervious to the traditional pitfalls like the trap game. But look, Ohio State did not manage a similar situation to this one, which was Nebraska the week before Penn State. So that's where my concern lies. It's between the ears with this team, which could manifest into issues on the field if they aren't focused on the task at hand on Saturday. So this is a bring your own juice kind of setting, right? 11 a.m. kick. All right, guys.
Your Honor. Do you not listen to yourself when you spout off these offensive statistics of the team that we're about to play? I mean, and then secondarily, dude, I bet you that place is more Buckeyes than Northwestern people.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, dude, how many freaking Buckeyes are going to be there?
It could be. It's just a weird setting. It's Chicago in November. I know the weather forecast says it's going to be fine, but it's just, the last time Ohio State played in that area was 2022. In that tropical depression, it was 21 to 7.
But that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, we don't think. Yeah, right.
Dude, that was ridiculous.
No. Totally. I agree with that. It's just more, like I say, the setting, what's going on between the ears of this team. And they, quite frankly, they did not manage this very well. The last time they were in this situation, playing an overmatched opponent the week before a matchup game, which was Penn State. So it's just a minor concern. I'm not saying you're going to hear my score prediction in a second. But my readout says 4.
those two things should be congruent to some level, and so I am going to revise. I am at a zero concern meter, a complete zero.
Thank you, PVA.
See, you're trying to apply logic to something that has no logic. It's all like it's emotional, it's intuitive. You're of course my actual games prediction and concernometer prediction aren't congruent. They never will be.
But here's the thing, like my concernometer was just this personal thing that I had to endure with my father-in-law. Last time Ohio State got fucking killed by Northwestern, and so it had absolutely nothing to do with actual football or the teams or the X's and O's.
Well, neither does mine. It really doesn't if you think about it. I mean, what I'm pointing to are things like an 11 a.m. kick and these other intangibles.
And those things, yes, and I agree. Those things are 100% real, like the look ahead and all that stuff.
Yeah. We've seen it once already. We've seen it happen once already this season. If you want to call a Nebraska look ahead situation.
Okay, so I'll meet you in the middle. I'll come up to a 1 simply for the look ahead. But other than that,
does that mean you're going to score a safety?
Yeah.
Field goal.
All right, fellas, let's get to some score predictions. Again, the line is Ohio State minus 28.5. The over-under is 43.5. CP, I'm going to kick this over to you. What's your score prediction?
Weather's going to be fine. We're going to score in 50, like above 50 again. I'm going 52-6.
Wow, 52-6.
Maybe the same thing I did last week.
Okay, 52-6. PVH, how about you?
51-5, just going right under Chad, but I am in complete agreement.
Wow, scoring up in the 50s. Okay.
The price is right.
Shit, man. I'm not going to get into the fucking showcase showdown now, damn it.
No, dude, you overbid that. No.
I just don't think the starters are going to be in long enough. I certainly hope they're not going to be in long enough for Ohio State to get up into the 50 range. I got Ohio State 40. Northwestern 6, but this to me is a game where Ryan Day is going to get his starters to the bench as soon as he possibly can, or I certainly hope that'll be the approach. But yeah, Ohio State handles their business, and I think with a second chance at this situation, I expect them to be much better than they were against Nebraska.
Yeah, and to your point, like hopefully they learned their lesson from Nebraska. And,
I would hope.
I think that applies more like within a season, right? Because we talk about these things because they're real.
Mm-hmm.
But when it happens once in a season, I feel like, okay, you have much more, like you get one, right?
Right.
Something can come up and bite you. But if it happens twice, then there might be more of a systemic problem. So I just don't think it's going to be that. I just don't anticipate it being an issue. But
all right.
We'll see.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right, fellas. There are just two other games I'd like to, talk about before I let you guys go. The first is number 1 Oregon visiting Madison, Wisconsin to take on the unranked Badgers. Now, this game is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on NBC. The line is Oregon minus 14. The over-under is 51.5. Now, this is one of those Big Ten games where the visiting team has to travel across 2 time zones to play. Visiting teams under those circumstances have been overwhelming losers this season in Big Ten play. But, we're talking about the number 1 team in the country, and the Ducks have already done this twice with blowout wins at Purdue and at Michigan. The Ducks are a little banged up. Tez Johnson, their top receiver, is injured and will not play. And we saw Wisconsin in a similar spot a few weeks back, hosting number 3 Penn State, also at night. And that was a 1-point game going into the fourth quarter. The Badgers actually had the lead at halftime of that game. CP, do the Badgers have a shot against the Ducks in this game?
I believe they do, and I believe they will cover. It's a night game in Camp Randall. That's one of the toughest places to play in college football. Yes, has it been like that all year, but this is the night game.
All right.
Oregon hasn't been in an atmosphere like this as like in a stadium like that in a night game with a jump around shit going on and have like. So I think they do. I'm in.
So you like Oregon to win, but you think that they won't cover?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. How about you, PBH?
Badgers to cover.
Well, how refreshing is it to have a Big Ten game on at prime time at night You're going to have fans be excited.
Oh, boy.
They're going to be really juiced up.
Here we go.
It's going to be under the lights. I mean, like, who'd have ever thought this is a good fucking idea? Like, I mean, man, the executives that run the college football, man, I give them a lot of props for figuring out that this is the way that college football should be played and displayed and presented to its consumers. So kudos to you guys. And so
kudos to NBC because it's NBC's slot, right?
Yeah, kudos to NBC because you didn't bid enough money, and so you're eating, sloppy thirds, and you have to have the Oregon-Wisconsin game on prime time. Well, fucking kudos to you. God.
So how do you see this game playing out?
It has all the trappings, that's for sure. And I kind of felt like Wisconsin, would have done it before. I don't honestly know what the problem is with Wisconsin, and well,
they lost their starting quarterback, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks ago. That was a big blow. They weren't going to be very good offensively anyway, but that was a big blow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, do I want them to do it? Does it have all the hallmarks of an upset? Yes, it does. So I tend to agree with CP that it'll probably be close, right around the number, but Oregon still finds a way to win because I just think they're the more talented team.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, fucking Dan Lanning, man, that guy's a hell of a coach.
He is a good coach. Yeah, they're a good team. Look, the Wisconsin defense and the crowd at night, I think is going to help keep this game close for a couple of quarters, but I just don't think the Badgers have enough offense to keep pace with Oregon, even without Tez Johnson. I think the Ducks, it's close for a while. The Ducks pull away in the second half, and I think they cover. I think they cover that 14. All right, finally, number 7 Tennessee visits number 12 Georgia, who got de-pantsed last Saturday by Ole Miss. Now this is probably
both had wrong. You and I both had
yeah,
that
we were
wrong.
I was totally wrong about that. Now this is probably a CFP elimination game. The loser is most likely out. And I know there's been some discussion about a 3-loss Georgia still getting in, but if you look at the rankings, the new rankings this week, they're the first team out. If I'm a Georgia fan, I don't want to find out if I get in with 3 losses. I think you definitely want to win this game if you're Georgia. Now this one is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on ABC. The line is UGA minus 9.5. The over/under is 47.5. The Vols are bringing a nasty defense into this contest, but their quarterback Nico Imialiava is questionable and might not play, according to Pete Thamel. CP, I'm going to kick this over to you. Who do you like in this game?
Georgia bounces back, man. Kirby's not losing 2 games in a row. And Carson back, at the end of the day, oof. I don't know, he's kind of like Denzel Burke right now.
He's having a rough season.
This fucking, lay off the weed, but the guy could still, he's going to get drafted. He can ball out. The guys can throw accuracy, pop. It's obviously evident. There's just something going on right now where he's not connected, and I feel like that's going to be. Because Kirby, at the end of the day, he's not going to lose 2 games in a row, man. That Georgia team there's talent all over that field. I feel like they're going to go in and take care of business against the Vols.
Yeah, Beck is having a rough season. His completion percentage is down 7 points from last season. He's only completing 65% of his passes, down from 72% last season. He already has 12 picks. 12 interceptions, and his yards per attempt.
The last 3 games.
Yeah, and his yards per attempt also way down. 9.5 yards per attempt last season, down to 7.8 this season. They lost a ton of skill guys from last year's team, right? Including his name escapes me, but his security blanket, the stud tight end, is gone among other good skill guys for Georgia. They're just not that good on the outside as they were last year. PBH, who do you like in this game?
It's in Athens.
It is.
Yeah, dude. And I was with you, dude. I thought Georgia, would have rolled Ole Miss last week, but it's the age-old George Bush. Fool me, once, shame on you, and fool me twice, shame on somebody. I'm taking Tennessee. I think what? Yeah, dude. There's something wrong with Georgia. And I don't think it's all necessarily Beck. I mean, if they win this game, their defense will keep them in it. But I saw something like they have no vertical threat. Their skill players are way down. Beck is pressing. Everything in my bones, and this is just, like the last 3-year biasness, right? Like we all just expect Georgia, but you know what? Maybe they're having a down year.
They can't run the ball. They're only averaging 4.2 yards per carry in the run game. Georgia. I mean,
I'm going against my gut. Tennessee.
Wow. Okay.
Straight up.
Tennessee on the road, and I don't have any of the stats in front of me, but I do believe it's been quite some time since the Vols have gone into Athens and won that game.
That would be awesome, though, right? I mean, like,
oh yeah, I'd love to see it.
They might burn Knoxville down.
I'd love to see it. I think I'm with CP on this one, though. I think Georgia gets it done at home. Maybe an ugly game. A lot of defense, and the big question for the Vols is Emi Aliava going to play? Right, if they're without their starting quarterback, I think that's tough, even with Georgia's struggles this season. But I'll certainly be rooting for Tennessee to win this one.
So what was the line in the game?
UGA minus 9.5. The over/under is 47.5.
Okay, and so all right. Well, and the other thing, and like I said in the text, what would the odds have been to start the season if Georgia loses this game that they didn't make a 12-team playoff?
Oh my God.
Like minus 50,000, right? Like, I mean, dude, talk about
the preseason number one. They were an overwhelming preseason number one in both major polls, and
never.
Wow.
Maybe they're feeling the pressure too.
Could be. I think you're right. Like they're just not what they were the last couple seasons at the skill position. Still very good on defense.
Yeah, and by
Beck,
the way, they should have never beat. Now it just popped in my head. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. They should have never fucking beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
There's okay. So all right.
So you're liking your pick all the more, right?
Yeah, I'm talking myself into it as we get. No, I'm on the BetMGM app, and I'm just increasing my wager as I talk myself into it. Then clearly, I might as well just burn hundreds because it won't work out.
All right, fellas. Well, look, on that note, that was a great effort for a Thursday night. Why don't we end things there? For our listeners, check your feeds on Sunday afternoon for a recap of the Northwestern game from yours truly. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
You've been listening to The South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. Follow us on X at South_Stands.